The storm hit without warning. Lightning slashed across the sky, making the cliffside shimmer like molten metal. Rain pelted down, turning rocks slick and treacherous. From above, a small, desperate cry pierced the roar of thunder. Arya's eyes snapped upward. A tiny dragon hatchling tumbled through the downpour, its delicate wings flailing uselessly, claws scrabbling for purchase on wet stone. "Hold on," she shouted, sprinting across the slippery cliff. Her boots slipped once, then again, but she didn't stop. The hatchling bounced off a jagged rock and fell farther. Arya dove forward, arms outstretched. Her hands caught the creature just before it hit the edge. Its body was small and fragile, drenched in rain, trembling violently. Her heart pounded. "It's okay, little one. I've got you." She tucked the hatchling against her chest. Its tiny heart thumped so fast it felt like it might burst. A faint glow pulsed along its scales, a soft, bluish light that danced in the storm's shadows. Arya froze for a moment, staring at it. She had never seen anything like this. The hatchling wasn't just scared, it seemed alive in a way that was almost unnatural. From the shadows above, a massive presence watched. Arya didn't notice it at first. The air shifted, it carried a weight, a silent power that pressed down on her chest. Then she heard it, a low, vibrating hum, almost like a voice but not human. Her breath caught. She turned her head just in time to see a massive silhouette descending through the clouds. A dragon larger than any ship she had ever seen, wings cutting through the wind like slicing steel. Its scales shimmered with an unearthly luster, eyes bright and calculating. It landed with a thunderous impact that shook the rocks beneath her. The hatchling shrieked and tried to squirm from her arms. Arya held on tighter, kneeling in the mud. "Shoo, it's okay. I won't let anything happen to you." Her fingers moved instinctively, checking the tiny wings. One was bent at an odd angle, clearly injured. She didn't know exactly what to do, but she knew she couldn't wait. Not with the storm and the cliff and that enormous shadow watching. The giant dragon's gaze fixed on her. Its eyes were sharp, almost human in understanding, and they burned with curiosity, and something darker. Arya's stomach clenched. The creature was watching her, waiting, judging. She felt small, but she couldn't afford fear. Not now. "Okay, think," she muttered to herself. She remembered the first aid training she'd taken for emergencies. Not for dragons, obviously, but the principles were the same. Stabilize, protect, calm the injured creature. She tore a strip of cloth from her jacket and gently wrapped the hatchling's bent wing, improvising a splint from a broken branch. The hatchling hissed softly, then seemed to settle. Its tiny glow brightened slightly. A small relief washed over her. She had done something. She had help. Suddenly the wind shifted again. A branch snapped above her head, striking the hatchling's tail. It yelped and Arya flinched. Without thinking, she shoved it behind her back, shielding it with her body. The massive dragon above let out a low rumble, wings stretching wide, but it didn't move closer. It was watching. Arya swallowed hard. "I don't know who you are," she said aloud, her voice shaking, "but I'm not going to let anything happen to this little one. Not while I'm here." The storm crashed around them, lightning flashing so bright it burned the image of the emperor-sized dragon into her mind. She felt her pulse in her ears. A sudden bolt struck the cliffside nearby, sending rocks tumbling. Arya screamed and shielded the hatchling with her arms. The ground quaked under her knees. She glanced up again, and the enormous dragon was closer now, hovering, massive wings cutting through the rain. Its eyes, wide and glowing, seemed to study her with an intensity that made her knees weak. And then she realized something chilling. This dragon wasn't just observing the hatchling. It was observing her. Every move, every instinctive choice she made, it was cataloging. Arya's mind raced. What did it want? Was it going to attack, or was it waiting? A small crack of thunder rolled through the cliff, echoing like the first note of something terrible. The hatchling shivered violently in her arms, its bioluminescent glow flickering. Arya tightened her grip. Her thoughts spun. She didn't know what this dragon was, or why it was here, but she did know one thing. She had to protect this tiny life no matter what. Lightning split the sky again, illuminating the cliff, the hatchling, and the enormous dragon in a single blinding flash. And in that flash, Arya saw it. The faint outline of a second smaller hatchling struggling on a ledge farther up, even more injured than the one in her arms. Her heart stopped. Another life depended on her now. And the enormous dragon above, it was moving. Arya's hands shook as she glanced up at the ledge. The second hatchling was smaller, weaker, barely moving. Rain streaked down her face, mixing with mud, but she didn't hesitate. "Hold on, little one. I'm coming," she whispered, sprinting toward a narrow, slippery path that led higher up the cliff. Each step threatened to slide her down into the stormy chasm below. A gust of wind slammed against her chest, nearly knocking her off balance. She gritted her teeth, clutching the first hatchling to her chest, its small body radiating a faint warmth. She had stabilized its wing, but it still trembled violently, eyes wide with fear. Every instinct screamed that she was in over her head. Humans weren't supposed to be this close to dragons, especially not ones that massive. The shadow above shifted. The enormous dragon had spread its wings, hovering, blocking the sky. Its eyes glowed like molten gold, fixed on her every move. Arya froze for a heartbeat, unsure if it would attack. But instead of aggression, there was a strange intensity, curiosity, almost reverence. She couldn't understand it, but she had no time to dwell. Another bolt of lightning illuminated the cliff, and she saw them, dark shapes moving in the shadows. Rival dragons, or something even more dangerous, were descending from the storm clouds. "Great," she muttered, teeth clenched. "Just what I needed." The smaller hatchling on the ledge whimpered weakly. Its glow flickered, barely visible. Arya edged closer, balancing on the treacherous rocks. Every movement could send her plummeting. She scanned the path, looking for a secure foothold. Her eyes caught a jagged rock she could use as a step. She lunged for it, heart hammering. Her hands slipped in the mud, but she caught herself at the last second, saving both her life and the hatchlings. The rival dragons let out shrill cries, wings slicing through the storm. Arya froze, listening. Their cries carried intelligence, planning, coordination. They weren't just wild predators. They were organized, hunting for the hatchling. The enormous dragon above rumbled, almost warning them away. Arya realized this was a test. It wasn't attacking, but it was watching to see what she would do. Adrenaline surged through her. She couldn't rely on luck or hope. She needed a plan. Improvising, she looked at the cliffside around her. Fallen branches, broken stones, anything she could use. She grabbed a loose branch, snapping it against the ledge to create a makeshift barrier. The rival dragon swooped closer, but the barrier gave her a few crucial seconds. Finally, she reached the smaller hatchling. Its wing was twisted, almost useless, and its glow flickered weakly. Arya's hands worked quickly, wrapping the tiny limb in cloth and fashioning another crude splint from a jagged stick. The hatchling whimpered, then relaxed slightly in her hands. She let out a shaky breath. One small victory, but the threat wasn't over. The enormous dragon descended, landing nearby with a ground-shaking thud. Its gaze swept over her, scanning the hatchlings. Arya swallowed hard. She had never felt so small, so exposed, but also so alive. She knew she had to act fast. "Okay," she muttered under her breath. "We need to get down before they attack again." The storm raged around them. Rain blurred her vision. She scanned the path downward and spotted a narrower ledge leading to a safer area. Her hands gripped the hatchlings, balancing carefully. Every step was a gamble, every slip could be fatal. A shadow darted across the ledge. One of the rival dragons had spotted them, circling with lethal precision. Arya froze, calculating. She ran, they could dive and attack. She stayed, she risked being trapped. She spotted a loose rock above the path and had an idea. Using all her strength, she hurled it toward the cliffside. The rock struck another branch, triggering a minor landslide. Debris tumbled down, startling the circling dragon and buying her a few seconds to move. She bolted, sliding down mud and stone, clutching both hatchlings. The enormous dragon followed above, silent but protective. Arya's mind raced. She realized she wasn't just saving lives. She was proving herself to something far greater than she understood. Something intelligent, powerful, almost beyond comprehension. Halfway down, a bolt of lightning struck perilously close, sending a spray of sparks into the mud. The hatchlings screamed. Arya grabbed them both, shielding their tiny bodies with her own. Her muscles ached, her breath came in ragged gasps, but she refused to let go. One wrong move now could end everything. Finally, she reached a narrow outcropping that jutted safely from the cliff. She collapsed, both hatchlings pressed against her chest. The glow from their bodies pulsed faintly, synchronized with her racing heartbeat. She dared a glance upward. The enormous dragon hovered above, wings spread, watching. It let out a low, rumbling sound, almost like approval. But the relief was brief. A shadow moved in the storm clouds, another set of wings, larger and faster than the first. Arya's stomach dropped. This was not over. The rival dragons were regrouping. They were learning. And now, with the hatchlings in her care, she had become their target. Her mind raced. She had protected them this far. Could she do it again? Could she survive long enough to earn the trust of the emperor-sized dragon above? The hatchlings looked at her with tiny, pleading eyes, their bioluminescent glow flickering in the storm. And then, as if sensing her determination, the enormous dragon let out a low, resonant roar that echoed across the cliffside. The sound was not threatening, it was almost commanding. The rival dragons hesitated, circling but not attacking. Arya's heart pounded. She realized something impossible. The huge dragon wasn't just watching her, it was testing her, measuring her, waiting to see if a human could act with courage, intelligence, and heart in a situation even dragons might fear. The storm raged around them, the cliff trembling beneath her, and the rival dragons circled, dark and silent. Arya hugged the hatchlings tighter, her mind set. She would not fail. Not now. Lightning flashed, revealing another cliff ledge far above, shrouded in mist, and on it, the faint outline of a third figure, massive, watching, awaiting. Her breath caught. This was bigger than she imagined. And whatever came next, she would have to face it head-on. Arya's muscles burned, her fingers raw from clutching the hatchlings, but she refused to let exhaustion slow her. She glanced at the enormous dragon hovering above, the Emperor she now realized though she didn't know it yet. His gaze never left her, piercing, intelligent, judging. Every move she made was under scrutiny, and the weight of it pressed on her chest. The storm had begun to ease, leaving the cliffs slick but quieter. Lightning still split the sky, but the rain softened, allowing her to examine the smaller hatchling more closely. That's when she noticed it, a faint crystalline structure protruding from the bend of its injured wing. It shimmered with a soft alien light, almost like it was alive, pulsating in time with the hatchling's heartbeat. Arya froze. She had seen strange minerals in labs rare enough to be priceless, but this wasn't ordinary. Its surface seemed to shift as though it were breathing. "What are you?" she whispered, brushing her fingers over the delicate crystal. The hatchling hissed softly but didn't resist. Its glow intensified, bathing Arya's hands in eerie light. She realized this crystal might be the reason it was injured, or the reason it was alive at all. It was powerful but fragile, dangerous if handled incorrectly. One wrong move could kill it, or trigger something far worse. The massive dragon above let out a deep rumble, wings vibrating against the wind. Arya's stomach clenched. It had noticed. She could feel its eyes on her, sharp and unyielding, as if it were studying her choices. Every second she hesitated, the shadow of the unknown threat lingered. The rival dragons were circling farther down, waiting. She had a choice. Retreat? Improvise? Risk touching the crystal? Her hands trembled, but she knew hesitation would cost lives. Taking a deep breath, she wrapped the smaller hatchling in her jacket to stabilize it and pressed a finger gently against the crystal, watching for any sign of reaction. It reacted. A wave of energy pulsed outward, faint but distinct. The smaller hatchling's wing began to align, the bent joint straightening slowly, as though the crystal itself was self-healing. The light pulsed stronger, sending faint vibrations into Arya's fingertips. She felt the tiniest warmth, and for a fleeting moment she glimpsed something impossible. The hatchling's mind, images, emotions, and fear flowing through her. She could feel its relief as it relaxed in her arms. Her heart skipped a beat. Humans weren't supposed to do this. She wasn't supposed to touch alien energy without consequences. But it worked. She had stabilized the hatchling's wing. She had succeeded where dragons alone might have failed. Above her the Emperor shifted. Its massive wings stirred the air, lifting it slightly, but it did not attack. Instead, it lowered its massive head closer, eyes fixed on her. The rumble in its throat was no longer anger, it was curiosity, calculation. And then, in a voice that shook the air and vibrated in her chest, it spoke. "You are not like the others." Arya stumbled backward, clutching the hatchlings. Her breath caught. The Emperor had never spoken to humans. Not in 1,000 cycles, it said later in the legends. And yet here it was speaking to her. Not with fire, not with claws, just words, deliberate, measured. I'm just trying to help," she stammered, voice barely audible over the fading wind. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Humans are weak, fragile. They survive by luck or not at all. Why should I trust you with my kin?" Arya's gaze hardened. "Because I have to. Because I won't fail. Because no one else will." She tightened her hold on the hatchlings. "You don't know me, but I won't let anything happen to them." For a moment the world seemed to pause. The rival dragons circling below froze in the dim light, sensing something extraordinary. The hatchlings, previously trembling, looked up at Arya, their alien energy now steady, almost calm. Then a shockwave of movement jolted the cliffside. A sudden landslide farther up sent rocks tumbling, narrowly missing the hatchlings. Arya ducked instinctively, shielding them, but it revealed something she hadn't noticed before. A hidden ledge above partially collapsed and a strange formation of crystalline growths lining the rock face. Their glow mirrored the hatchling's crystal, pulsing faintly. Her mind raced. These crystals weren't isolated, they were part of the cliff itself, part of something ancient, maybe even a long-lost network of draconic energy. The hatchling's injury hadn't been random. It had been connected to the cliff's energy, to the crystal's resonance. Touching it had aligned the two. Arya's heart pounded. She had just made a choice that might have saved one life, but it could have far-reaching consequences. She could sense the Emperor's gaze, calculating what she had done. She realized she hadn't just healed a hatchling. She had tapped into something dragons alone had never controlled. Something humans could understand, manipulate, or amplify with courage and quick thinking. The Emperor's wings lifted higher, its massive form now towering above her like a living shadow. You possess a quality few dragons recognize. Curiosity, boldness, compassion. You may yet influence the fate of more than one life. Arya's chest tightened. She didn't fully understand what it meant, but she knew it was a turning point. The Emperor's trust, or at least interest, was now in play. Her actions had shifted the balance even slightly, and she could feel the tide of the world tilting. Then, just as she dared a moment of relief, a sudden flash lit the sky. Down on the ledge below, a rival dragon dove from the clouds, larger and faster than any she had seen before. Its eyes glowed with intent, wings cutting through the storm like knives. The hatchlings whimpered and Arya's heart leapt. The Emperor let out a warning roar louder than thunder, but it was not enough to reach the diving threat. Arya's mind snapped into action. She couldn't let the hatchlings fall again, not after everything she had done. She tightened her grip, backed against the cliff and prepared for the impossible. The storm had not yet ended, and neither had the danger. Arya's heart hammered in her chest as the rival dragon hurtled toward them, its massive wings slicing through the stormy air with terrifying speed. The hatchlings shrieked, their glowing bodies flickering violently, reflecting the chaos around them. She hugged them tighter, feeling the pulse of the smaller one's crystal under her fingertips. It vibrated faintly, as if sensing her determination. She had no weapons, no reinforcements, only courage, quick thinking, and the raw instinct to survive. The Emperor above let out a deafening roar, its wings creating gusts that bent the rain sideways. The rival dragon veered, trying to adjust course, but Arya didn't hesitate. She grabbed a jagged rock from the ledge and hurled it with all her strength. The rock struck the cliffside, sending loose stones tumbling downward. The rival dragon screeched in surprise, its trajectory wobbling just enough for her to act. She didn't wait. With the hatchling secured, she lunged toward a narrow ledge to her right, using the cliff's twisted roots and broken stone for footing. Her boots slipped in the mud, sending her sliding dangerously close to the edge, but instinct and adrenaline kept her upright. She scrambled across, keeping the hatchlings pressed against her chest. The rival dragon adjusted, faster now, smarter, circling, preparing to strike again. Arya's mind raced. She needed leverage, something the dragons didn't expect. She remembered the crystal in the smaller hatchling's wing. The energy it emitted had stabilized, pulsing in harmony with her heartbeat. Could she use it? She closed her eyes for a moment, focusing on the subtle vibration under her fingers. The hatchling twitched, its glow intensifying. A sudden idea struck. She had to create a distraction, something powerful enough to make the rival hesitate just long enough to escape. A bolt of lightning split the sky, illuminating the cliff. Arya extended the hatchling's wing outward, letting the crystal catch the light. The glow flared, brighter than before, and a pulse of energy shot out, shimmering like a wave across the cliffside. The rival dragon hissed, halting mid-dive, wings thrashing as the energy washed over it. It shrieked, circling, confused and off balance. The Emperor's roar boomed again, more controlled now, as if it approved of her action. Its massive form descended slightly, positioning itself between Arya and the rival. The enormous dragon's presence created a vortex of wind, forcing the rival dragon to back off, uncertain against such overwhelming power. Arya's pulse surged with adrenaline. Her gamble had worked, she had bought them precious seconds. Come on, she whispered to herself, edging toward a safer ledge. The cliff twisted sharply upward, leading to a plateau partially hidden by storm clouds. She glanced at the hatchlings. Their glow stabilized, but their tiny bodies still trembled. She couldn't stop now, not with the final threat looming. Suddenly, the rival dragon dived again, faster this time, aiming directly for the plateau. Arya's stomach dropped. She had only one option: use the terrain. She scanned the plateau and spotted a jagged fissure lined with loose crystals. Without hesitation, she ran, clutching the hatchlings, and kicked a chunk of crystal toward the fissure. It tumbled down, catching the light from the hatchling's glow and scattering it in a blinding pattern. The rival dragon swerved violently, wings scraping the cliff, nearly losing control. The Emperor roared, unleashing a pulse of air so powerful it drove the rival away for a brief moment. Arya took the chance. She dashed to the plateau, breath ragged, heart pounding, and dropped the hatchlings onto a secure patch of rock. They looked up at her, glowing softly, and she let herself breathe for just a second. But the relief was fleeting. From the storm clouds above, a massive shadow appeared, larger than the rival dragon, faster, with wings that blotted out the remaining sunlight. It dove with terrifying precision, aiming for the hatchlings. Arya froze. She had no tools, no weapons, no allies, only her wits and her courage. Her mind snapped into focus. She could not let this creature strike. She scanned the cliffside, spotting loose rocks, jagged edges, and the crystal in the smaller hatchling's wing. Everything she had learned in the past few minutes, their energy, her quick thinking, had led to this. She extended the hatchling's wing again, channeling her own focus into the pulse. The glow flared brighter than ever, a radiant wave that swept over the cliffside, striking the massive creature mid-dive. It shrieked in confusion, its trajectory disrupted, and the Emperor struck. Massive wings slammed against the air, sending a wall of wind that pushed the intruder back into the storm clouds. The rival dragon and the larger attacker spiraled away, temporarily defeated. Arya's chest heaved. She sank to her knees, drenched and trembling, clutching the hatchlings to her chest. The Emperor descended, landing near her with the force of a small mountain. Its gaze softened, golden eyes locking onto hers. The rumble of its throat was no longer threatening, it was almost approving. Arya's pulse slowed slightly. She had done it. Against impossible odds, she had saved them. You, the Emperor's voice vibrated through the air, deep and resonant, have proven more than courage. You have wisdom and heart. Rare in your kind. Arya swallowed hard. She barely managed to nod. I just wanted to protect them. The Emperor's massive claw gently lowered, touching the smaller hatchling, its crystal glowing in harmony with the one in her hands. The energy pulsed, steady now, stable. The hatchlings had survived, and more than that, they were thriving. Then, in a sudden, chilling pattern interrupt, the storm above shifted. The clouds darkened unnaturally and faint, metallic shapes glinted in the distance. Not dragons, not any creature she recognized, something far more alien, far more dangerous, moving toward them at impossible speed. Arya's heart skipped a beat. The battle was won, but a larger threat loomed. The Emperor spread its wings, letting out a low, warning rumble. Arya tightened her grip on the hatchlings, standing tall despite exhaustion. She had faced the impossible and survived. But the next challenge was coming, and it would demand everything she had learned so far, and more. The storm had passed, leaving the cliffside slick but calm. Rain dripped from jagged rocks and a faint mist hovered over the plateau. Arya crouched, still holding the hatchlings close, their glow soft and steady now. The fear and chaos of the past hours weighed on her, but there was relief too, tiny fragile relief that she had survived and that the hatchlings had survived. The Emperor's massive form rested nearby, wings folded, head lowered. Its golden eyes studied her, intense but unreadable. Arya's chest still pounded from exhaustion and adrenaline. She could barely believe what had just happened. She had faced impossible odds, outsmarted deadly dragons, and survived storms both literal and figurative. And yet, in all of it, the hatchlings had thrived. You have done more than I expected, the Emperor said, its voice deep, resonating through the cliff. Humans are fragile. Yet you act with courage, intelligence, and heart. Qualities I have seen few possess. Arya blinked, her fingers brushing the smaller hatchling's glowing crystal. I just did what I had to. I couldn't leave them behind. I couldn't let them die. The Emperor rumbled thoughtfully. And yet, in doing so, you have shown what my kind lacks. Determination that is not bound by pride or fear. Empathy that drives action when logic fails. Humans may yet be necessary to the survival of my empire. Arya's heart skipped a beat. She had never imagined her actions could carry such weight. She had been just a human, a waitress from a floating tavern, thrown into a world of dragons and alien energy. And now, somehow, she had earned the notice of the Dragon Emperor himself. She glanced at the hatchlings. Their glow pulsed gently, synchronized with the rhythm of her heartbeat. The smaller one with its crystal wing moved tentatively, testing its newly healed joint. The larger hatchling leaned against her shoulder, eyes wide but calm, trusting. A tiny smile tugged at her lips. She had saved them. She had made a difference. The cliffside rumbled faintly beneath her feet. Arya's eyes darted upward. The rival dragons had retreated and the storm had moved on, but the memory of their cries, the weight of their intent, lingered. She knew the danger wasn't entirely gone. The Emperor noticed her glance. "You have survived the first trial," it said, voice deep and slow. "But threats linger even beyond what you can see. What you have done today has shifted the balance. But it is only the beginning." Arya swallowed. She had faced the impossible and survived, but she understood now that survival was not the same as victory. She would have to act again. She would have to trust herself, trust the hatchlings, and trust that even a human could make a difference in a world ruled by dragons and alien power. For a moment, silence fell. The only sounds were the dripping rain and the quiet pulsing of the hatchling's glow. Arya's chest ached with exhaustion, but also with a strange sense of hope. She had proven that humans could shine, not with fire or claws but with courage, cleverness, and empathy. She had faced impossible odds and she had succeeded. The Emperor lowered its head, closer this time. Its massive eyes locked onto hers, and for the first time, Arya felt something she hadn't expected: respect. She wasn't just a human. She was a force, small but significant, in a universe that often overlooked her kind. "You have earned my trust," the Emperor said. "And with trust comes responsibility. There are forces rising that even my kind cannot face alone. You may be one of the keys to survival." Arya's mind raced. What did it mean? Forces rising? Beyond dragons? Beyond even this cliff, beyond this storm? She didn't have answers, but she felt something familiar. The thrill and fear of standing on the edge, the exhilaration of acting when all odds are stacked against her. She had survived once. She could survive again. She shifted, letting the hatchlings explore the plateau under her careful gaze. The larger one flapped its tiny wings experimentally, while the smaller one's crystal glowed faintly in the afternoon light. Both had been given a second chance, thanks to her courage and quick thinking. The Emperor lifted its massive wings, casting a shadow that stretched across the cliffside. "Humans may be small," it rumbled, "but today one human has shown what my empire cannot ignore. Remember this moment, Arya. The world is larger than you know, and danger comes in forms neither you nor I have yet seen." Arya nodded, chest tight. "I'll remember. And I'll be ready." As the Emperor rose into the sky, the hatchlings chirped softly, following her lead. Arya took a deep breath, letting the wind wash over her. The cliffside felt alive, vibrant, filled with potential. She had acted when no one else could, and she had changed fate itself, at least for these 2 lives and maybe, just maybe, for an empire. But then, at the edge of the horizon, something unusual caught her eye. A faint glint, metallic and angular, hovering far above the clouds. It moved too fast, too precise to be a bird or dragon. Her stomach clenched. Whatever it was coming. And she knew, deep down, that the next challenge would be far greater than this storm, this cliff, or even the rival dragons. She tightened her grip on the hatchlings one last time, looking at the vast sky ahead. Her pulse quickened, not with fear but with purpose. She had survived the impossible once. She could do it again. The cliffside was quiet now, the hatchlings safe, the Emperor gone, but the distant glint above hinted at a new, unknown threat. Something alien. Something that would test her courage, her intelligence, and her heart, like nothing she had faced before. Arya straightened, taking in the horizon. She had changed the course of a life, a hatchling, even an empire. But the universe had more in store. And she would be ready.